This podcast is a proud member of the Unidentified Network.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, live and in colour, it's Mr. Wayne Lovejuice.
The other day I produced a movie, had a chat with an interesting chappie who said that the YouTube algorithm really aren't that happy. If a channel only broadcasts once a week, so we decided we could texture whenever we've got a piece of news in our new book on the track extra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's John Downs. I'm the Director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, and welcome to another episode of On the Track Extra. We've got a special show for you this week because me and Miss Isabel are going to be talking about boobies. Ooh. In fact, we're going to be talking about brown boobies. Ooh. There is a piece of folklore currently doing the rounds of the internet saying that once upon a time a Facebook group dealing with passage migrants and rare visitors to our air and shores was banned by the Facebook authorities because somebody posted up a picture and saying these are immature brown boobies. And the whole group was closed down on suspicion of putting out images of underage people. Well, they weren't talking about that at all. They were talking about these. These are wonderful birds called boobies. And I always think that the brown booby in particular looks very much like him. And with a lovely lexilink, his name is Jeremy Boob, or PhD, I think he was. And he, of course, was a character in the Beatles' Yellow Submarine. And I always think that the brown booby looks very much like him. And I don't know if anybody agrees with me. Let me know in the comments below.
Why are we talking about boobies?
Well, Isabel, it's quite simple. As you have seen, as well as being a vulgar euphemism for top bollocks, boobies are also a group of seabirds closely related to the gannets that are found in the southern oceans. And several species of them have even been found in British waters. Cop a load of this. There are two species of booby that are found on the British list. They are the red-footed booby and the aforementioned brown booby. The first time I heard about a red-footed booby on British shores took place after the Falklands War in 1982, when one of the ships came back with a stowaway and a large and very impressive-looking male red-footed booby found himself sitting on the dockside at Plymouth, eating a fish that people would find and throw for him, until the RSPB, together with the Royal Navy, took him back down south to the Falkland Islands on the next tour of duty. When Her Majesty's Royal Navy made sure that we could keep what remains of the British Empire safe and free from vagabond foreigners.
Rule Britannia! Hooray!
Because we all know that Johnny Foreigner is a rum cove. But apart from that, there is quite an interesting conundrum about this first booby record. I know it happened. I remember seeing the newspaper clipping. And if anybody wants to go and check it up, it's in the West Country Studies Library in Exeter, where I shall no doubt be spending quite a lot of time when I live back in Exeter again. But it doesn't show up on any of the British list records of the birds of the British Isles. Probably, I think, because it is known how it got here. And so it can't be accounted as an accidental vagrant. It's just one that hitched a lift with the Royal Navy. But I think it's interesting that this early, and as far as I know, earliest record of one of the boobies for Britain isn't on the official records. Now, something else before we get on to the story, which is why I'm talking about boobies today, is that booby comes from the Spanish for stupid, because people think that these boobies, these birds in the South Atlantic, are particularly stupid. Whether they are or not, I don't know, but they certainly look it, don't they? As we have seen, that these birds are ridiculously rare visitors to Britain, and they've only been recorded a handful of times. Now, last summer, in August 2023, both species were seen at the Isles of Scilly on a lighthouse at the same time. Now, I was never any good at calculating probability when I was at school. It's probably the reason why racing and gambling on horses and other things is one of the few vices I've never had, because I really don't understand how probability works. But I am certain that anyone will tell you that the probability of two birds the species have only been seen in Britain maybe 3 times for one and 12 times for the other, to be found at the same place at the same time, totally ignoring each other, but living quite happily, fishing in the local seas and flapping around with gay abandon, is absolutely ridiculously unlikely. And that is what this show's all about. Unexpected animals. That's what Bernard Heuvelman said, that the true definition of cryptozoology was unexpected animals. And although they're both of known species, no one can say that the sighting of two completely different species from different parts of the southern hemisphere to turn up in the same place in the northern hemisphere at the same time isn't absolutely ridiculously odd. But other unexpected visitors have turned up in this part of British waters over the years. One of the most enigmatic was a sea lion. I don't know what species of sea lion it was, but of the 6 species of sea lions still known to exist, one of which, the Japanese sea lion, has been counted as extinct, although there are some people who believe that it still survives. Only one species is ever known to have lived in the Atlantic Ocean, and that is the South American sea lion, which is found along the coast of Patagonia in the Falkland Islands. Again, we're mentioning the Falkland Islands, and along the coast of that part of South America. It's not found any further north, and so if it was this species, the fact that this individual would have either been transported or have swum all the way up the Atlantic Ocean, across the tropics and into temperate waters of northern Europe to find itself off the coast of Cornwall, is another absolutely ridiculously unlikely thing. But it happened, And I first learnt about the Cornish sea lion when I saw it on the children's TV show Blue Peter in the late 1980s. I was watching Blue Peter with one of my patients, because I was then a nurse working in a hospital for what were then known as the mentally handicapped, and I always used to watch Blue Peter with them so I could encourage the patients to ask questions and broaden their outlook. And there, much to my surprise, as well as a very fetching Blue Peter presenter in skin to height a rubber, what do they call it, swimming thing, a wetsuit, who did look incredibly alluring and rather sexy, there was a Cornish sea lion. I've not been able to find anything else about it apart from a few other people who've agreed with me, yes, it did exist. So please, if anybody watching this show knows more about the Cornish sea lion or has pictures of the alluring Blue Peter lady in a rubber wetsuit, please let me know. And that, boys and girls, was my show about boobies. And I want to say goodbye. No, I don't. I want to tell you what's happening next. But before I say goodbye, and before Miss Isabel says goodbye,
Bye!
we would like just to tell you I'm going to be back on Saturday. What am I doing on Saturday? Well, we're bringing you the first part of a show done by Richard Freeman and the late Alan Freeman, no relation, as they go through the bottom 10 cryptozoological creatures. The cryptozoological creatures that Richard and I, because I put my oar in on occasion, think are most unlikely to exist. It's a very interesting one, and I think it's going to upset a few apple carts. So, I will be back on Saturday, and I hope you will all be watching, especially you, Mr. McCrinnan, because if you're there watching, Mr. McCrinnan, then, no doubt, while I'm doing the, the live chat and the notifications and all the other stuff I do, I'll be seeing you.